council meeting of the village of Armada will now come to order. Will everyone rise for the pledge of allegiance to the flag? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you kindly. Clerk, call roll, please.
Shaw.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Conan.
Here.
Wallach.
Here.
Ballard.
Yep.
Sleds.
Here.
Belkey.
Here.
Next is the approval of the agenda. What's the council's wishes, please?
Mr. President, I'll move the agenda be accepted as presented.
Support.
By Shaw. Any further questions? Discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Next is the citizens' comments. Address the council, state your name for the record, if you do. You have 3 minutes to have the floor, please. Anyone would like to address the council, please? All right. No one else? Okay, there's no presentations tonight. The administrator reports, you have in your packet. Commissioners, liaison reports. Any commissioner want to address? Planning Commission meeting is also in your packet, which is May 3rd. Ed? Excuse me. May 2021 code enforcement reports also incorporated. Any further questions? If not, general business.
Mr. President, hold on one of that because I just got this signed up here. I'm going to add one for liaison report. I've got the bridge inspection paperwork from Rowe. We put that in the budget for this year, but it is the authorization for them to proceed with the routine inspection, the detailed inspection, and the load rating calcs on 2 bridges of the 4.
All right.
So I have signed this. Goes to Michelle for sending back to Doug.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. And then, as a follow-up from our last meeting, on the street sweeper. So I did get answers to your guys' questions and an updated quote. Thankfully, since this unit has been a Bell product, it has never been sold before. It's always something they've had in their inventories they've been renting. So they did have they had detailed service records. They lowered the price to $77,000, and they provided a complete listing here of their service activities that have been done on it. And then we do have a warranty that continues with them.
What year is that?
This is a 2011.
Okay, it's 10 years old already. Have you seen it, or anybody seen it from our council?
Just besides me or Dave, no. So that's what was the discussion. I think the 3 of us wanted to do something next. So I wanted to table it. Yes, I've got the information from him. Dave is excited about, kind of moving on it. Understand. I figure I'll share this with you two, and if we can pick a time. Or again, if you guys want to go look at it on your own too, that we don't necessarily have to be together to do it. But
Where's that?
Well, if we could, I agree with you, sort of we could. If we could
which
go
is
all
specific location?
all at once.
I think it's in like Oregon.
If we could go all at once,
Yep.
probably be the best. Then we can probably discuss right there too, so.
Sure.
How far do we have to go for it?
I think it's Lake Oregon.
Like Oregon?
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they have a sales room there, or?
They have their showroom, equipment, we call maintenance facility, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, okay, good. So that's very close.
Yep.
So you'll bring that to another meeting after you.
Well, we'll bring that back to discuss the purchase if that's the case. But you guys get together and sort of make a
Sure.
date somewhat, I'll try to go with you gentlemen in this.
Okay.
Anything else, Chris?
And then the only other thing is I'm trying to wrap up getting a quote from D&E on the sidewalk to wrap that program up. I have contacted Brandon several times. I know he's got his crews set up, he's got his new equipment. And he was putting the final quote together, so I'll try to get on him to get it wrapped up. I know these times of year too, and those landscaping companies gets to be tough.
Yeah, it's a rough season right now, you know. Everybody wants things done, so, yeah.
And like I said, our target, we wanted to get going here with him, which was, we wanted to be get going here in June and wrapped up well before the fair.
Well, yeah, if we can do that, that's gonna be excellent. So, because we'll have a lot of traffic, and everybody knows that the fair is gonna be on.
Right, and then there's one new, again, as he goes through it, because I apologize now, it's like the president's name now. Where she wants to do the drive, it was onto the alleyway, but we're gonna cut straight through. She's gonna need a sidewalk replacement there as well.
Add to.
Yep, so I told Brandon, we'll see where we fit, and if I have to trade one for the other, we'll take care of hers first, because again, it's having a low rating on the sidewalk is gonna be the tough part.
Okay.
Okay. Was there any talk of any indication for money-wise?
There's going to be, that's part of the thing, is I need to get that estimate in so that Becky can send the notice for the sharing.
Yeah, we sent out estimated notices, but, yeah.
Right, but she wasn't on that, I don't believe she was
No,
on that
I don't
list in
think
the
so.
first place, so.
Yeah.
Yep, and yes, and the estimate really is basically, it just takes the square footage of the entire property.
Right, and that, yeah,
goes
so
from
most of those aren't gonna come in that high.
Correct.
Right, okay.
But we do have to, we are, and it was kind of tough. You know, as I walked the village with Brandon on our protocol, or the criterion of, you know, what's been cracked, that's easy, where it creates the trip hazard, and then there's something where the trees are just up, you know, uprooted. But by the time you take 2 or 3 out, you can't leave a slab on an item either, so, you know, you're looking at there's 8, 10, and then you're taking out, you know, 6 or 7, at some point you're gonna take them all out, so. I guess there's a few parcels there, which I did have, on the 2 in particular were the most affected. I did talk to the property owners the day we were walking, because they were noticing a spray paint on
Yeah.
this and that, so. So we'll hopefully get that tied up pretty quick. I'll leave Brandon another message tonight, we'll see if I can get with them tomorrow morning.
Very good, thank you. Next is the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I'll move the consent agenda be accepted as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported by Clark. Any further discussion?
I just want to make note that the AMVETS, what they put in for was when they had applied for their special event permit last time for the Four Corners, they got rained out. So this is just, they picked another date and they had an alternative date, so this is just one of those 2 weekends, so they'll be out there, so.
Very good. Anything else, gentlemen? No. Next, we're gonna move to the old business.
Did we vote?
Pardon?
All in favor?
Oh, yes, consent agenda, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Next is the old business. First will be the sewer plant update, which is Mr. Clark's department. Mr. Clark, do you have anything?
Yes, work continues on the south pipe gallery with electrical and piping. They did fire up the air conditioner last week, and I got with Matt to confirm it was running, and they had an error code and it's shut down right now. So we'll get to that. The generator is also shut down temporarily right now. We had a small fuel leak on it, and they had to order some parts. So Matt got the old generator, make sure it was running, just to be sure that it is. SBR tank number 1, which they've been working on, hopefully we'll be back online early in July. Then we'll be shutting down the SBR number 2, and we'll be doing the same procedure for that. Mucking out all the grit, cleaning, sandblasting, painting, caulking, and then the new mixers and the aeration. And that's all I got right now.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Clark, please? Next, we'll move on to the water department. Mr. Belkey, your department, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to note today, June 14th, Flag Day. American flag was adopted on June 14, 1777 by the Second Continental Congress. Moving on to some water items. You're all familiar with our cross-connection and backflow prevention program that we've undertaken here this last year. Currently, we're inspecting the non-residential establishments in the village. Village led by example by doing all of the village properties first. So our inspections were completed, and as it occurs with some of the equipment, you wind up having to test. We just had 6 of our backflow prevention valves tested at the cost of $450. It was something to, and Steve was there when we were inspecting the water treatment plant, and the inspector was in a pair of white shorts in the grid building. So that was pretty bold. In any case, great price. All of our 6 testable backflow valves passed the inspection. So good news for us. Just want to ask Steve and Chris, the next DPW roundtable would be this Friday. You guys able to make that? Be 9 o'clock at the DPW building?
Yeah, I know I'm tied up in the morning. I might be able to break away for a short time.
Okay. Or if you have any items, I mean, I got plenty to discuss with Dave Wagner.
This
I
Friday.
thought we were gonna be the 25th.
We could push it, as a backup date to the 26th.
Jesus, 18th or 25th is the next Friday. I can do that.
I thought that was the 26th of June.
24th,
Double check, unless I'm
No,
on
the
the.
25th.
No, you are correct.
Yeah.
It is the 25th.
And I'll be the same situation the next Friday. I'm tied up usually in the morning at the apartments.
Okay. Maybe we work on a better set of times, but you want to move it to the 25th?
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay. All right. Let's plan on that
9 o'clock.
at 9 o'clock. These are good meetings. We've had our first one, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, and one can keep them going. They're very valuable. Mr. President, that's all I've got
Very
for water
good.
at this point.
All right, we'll move on then to the new business part, which first of all is the smart fund distribution for fiscal year 2022. So we have a prepared motion. What is council's wishes? Do
Mr.
you have
President,
any comments?
No, it's just what we do every year.
All right,
Nothing
For
new.
the smartphone.
all right.
Mr. President, I'll resolve to allow the clerk to sign the municipal credit community credit contract to distribute the fiscal year 2022 municipal credit funds totaling $1,710 and the community credit funds totaling $4,218 directly to the Richmond Lennox EMS.
Support.
By Shaw. Moved and supported. Further discussion? If not, call roll please.
Ballard,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Belkey,
Yes.
Sleds,
Yes.
Conan,
Yes.
Wallach.
Yes. Motion carried. Mr. White, we have done you the favor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, that was easy for you.
Very easy.
Yeah, very, very easy. So,
Would you want to, or did you have any comments from the council?
Just to let council know, we are back, full operations in transit now. We have been, providing only essential service. And doctor's offices, grocery appointments, things, or grocery store trips, things of that nature. We're now back to providing all service, including the trips to the airport that we had provided before that. We're really excited about the fact that during the pandemic, we were able to secure some funds through SMART and some grant dollars, and have actually purchased a large bus, a 24-passenger bus, that will be available to communities for recreational type trips. Just kind of on a first come, first served basis. There'll just be one of them, so we'll be letting your rec departments and senior centers know once that bus is here, that they can certainly contact us and schedule it for use. So we'll be excited to get that. Looks like because of delays in manufacturing related to COVID, unfortunately, we had hoped to maybe have it by July or August, but it's looking more like November or December of this year when we'll actually have the vehicle. So we're really we're excited to get it. A little disappointed by the delay, but understand given all of the COVID issues that the manufacturers are running into. The only other thing that I'll mention is that for the when people do call and schedule transportation right now on the buses, people are required, whether vaccinated or not, to wear a mask. That is not the requirement of Richmond Lennox EMS. That's the requirement of the CDC, and we receive federal funding through the Federal Transit Authority. So just like on an airplane or a train, it doesn't matter whether you have a vaccine or not. We do ask that you put on a mask if you're riding the bus. If you don't have one, we'll provide you one. We have plenty of them available to folks riding. But we have had a little bit of pushback as we've reopened things with regard to the mask issue, and we just explained to people best we can that it's a federal rule right now, not particularly ours. So, other than that, thank you very much. Again.
Very good, Mr. White. Thank you for your attendance. Next is cell tower release agreement. Excuse me, guys. Treasurer and Jeff have
Yeah, we can jump in if you want.
to jump in on that.
Sure, and I may have asked Joe to fill in some of the details, but I think it's important to start out with a little bit of background. And as many of you know, Joe, I think it was the early 1990s, we leased some excess land down at the treatment plant area for a cell tower. Obviously, cell towers back then were, basically kind of taking hold in the marketplace, and so we leased the land, and under the agreement, the original agreement, that the tower was constructed and erected in place. It's a monopole tower by a company called American Tower, and under that arrangement, they would own the tower for a defined period of time that would equate to the lease term, and then after that, ownership would revert to the village. Fast forward probably, I want to say maybe 10 years ago, Joe, we were approached by another entity, not American Tower, but another entity that said, hey, we are in the business of acquiring cell towers. And their business model was they would come in, and they knew that the village was going to eventually take ownership of that tower, and they said, we will buy that tower from you. And at the time, it did make a lot of sense, because we're not in the business of operating a tower, so we entered into negotiations and signed kind of a purchase agreement for Big Top Ventures, which was this second entity, to eventually acquire the title to the tower once American Tower's agreement ended. So there were two revenue streams associated with the two agreements. Obviously, the first one is the stream of lease payments from American Tower, and the second stream was Big Top Ventures. Big Top Ventures was basically paying us in advance. They were paying us money on an annual basis, much like American Tower, but that was to kind of get their foot in the door and acquire it. So it turned out to be a pretty good deal for the village. I think just rough numbers, we're getting paid about $16,000 annually between the two stream of payments. So about, oh boy, I would say maybe 4 months ago, Michelle, American Tower re-enters the picture and said, we've acquired Big Top Ventures, which was the company that was buying the tower, and said, we've reviewed the arrangement for them to buy that from you. And the part I left out, I apologize, the part I left out is not only did Big Top Ventures start to pay us an amount, when they actually took ownership, and that would be roughly 2025, up, so it's not that far away, but in 2025, not only would they have paid us in advance, they then would revert to a new revenue formula, which was based on antenna rents. So as you know, in that industry, you've got the monopole, and then a bunch of cell companies and providers make what they call attachments. They attach to the pole. And so under our agreement with Big Top Ventures, we got a cut of the action, so to speak. We were able to get, I believe, roughly approximately 50% of some of the rent payments due. So again, when American Tower jumps back in, the bottom line is they said that's not a good deal for us. Now, basically they said we don't want to pay. So they weren't real specific why, and obviously we have never been in the position to know exactly. We always had what I would call a lump sum payment arrangement. We didn't have any idea what those rentals would derive. So at first, Michelle and I talked, and Joe did a lot of analysis of the agreements. We thought, well, the disadvantage we have is we don't know what's on that tower. So if we come to council at some point, we say, we've been approached, we've got these offers, you guys would naturally say, well, what do we do? How much are we generating? And we just can't tell you because we don't have the numbers, and I'm not sure they would freely give those numbers up. Now, I will tell you, the three alternative offers that American Tower that is to renegotiate this, they're substantial amounts. Now, it's over, you've got to keep in mind that it's over what they describe as a 50-year period of time that this would cover. So they are substantial amounts of money that they're offering, but we really don't feel comfortable coming to you because I have no idea, what's attached, what the future might hold in terms of technology. I mean, it's conceivable maybe technology changes in 10 years and the monopole system isn't worth anything. But the problem, that we're having is we're not in the position to really know the market. They are. They've been fairly aggressive in coming to Michelle and saying, have you made an answer? Have you made a decision? So what we really wanted to just give you guys an update. Now again, there is what I like about this tonight, for tonight's purposes, we don't need an absolute decision from you. What we probably need is maybe some direction. Do we want to go out and find out, is there a consultant or maybe a law firm that knows what these towers are worth and can help us make a good decision? I know, we don't always want to spend a ton of money to do that, but when you look at some of the amounts involved, there's a lot at stake, so we don't want to miss on this. We don't want to swing and miss. So that's kind of the background. Obviously, Joe and I and Michelle will do our best to answer any questions. But more or less, I just need a thumbs up, take the next step. Now again, we are under absolutely no rush here. We have a valid agreement. There's nothing that we need to do. We're not the ones coming and saying change the agreement. But obviously they're not going to go away because they feel that, I doubt very much that they're going to want to pay. So I suspect that these attachments and future attachments are fairly lucrative. Otherwise, we probably would not be asking.
Right.
They did say that based on the economics, they may not be in a position to continue to pay, which, our 50% of nothing is nothing. That's kind of what they're basically saying. And that's okay. I mean, again, we need to do our due diligence and make sure we have a good handle on what the market's going to bear. But I would encourage you, if we haven't done it, we will get you the correspondence where they did outlay I should say, outline the 3 proposals that they would like us to consider. We're a long way, in my judgment, from being able to make a recommendation to you. But I would like you to see those numbers, obviously, because again, they're substantial. They, you know, I know we're always looking for revenue streams to help with some of these projects and things like that. So I want you to at least see what kind of numbers we're talking about. But I hope your takeaway is we got to get this right. You know, you don't want to make, like I said, a mistake on any of this. So Joe, I think, is there anything you wanted to add? I know you.
Well, we do kind of know what the what the money is, how much each tag pays a year, but we don't know how many tags.
Right.
So that's where the big question lies. You know, we know from the date of the second lease that we took on with Big Top, we know approximately how much the tags paid at that time, which we weren't getting any of that at that time. It won't be till at the end of the lease. But we don't know how many of them are on there. Is there 1 on there? Is there 20 on there?
Right.
Do we have any idea what a subject matter expert would charge us?
I wanted to kind of get the feel
Yeah.
of council
We're just
before I, you know, there are people, I mean, I'm aware of a few law firms that do specialize in telecommunications. I'm sure there are industry consultants that you can speak to. But realistically, like I said, you know, we all, you know, I think we actually had somebody approach us in the village a couple of years ago to do this small cell technology where they were attaching to DTE poles, or I believe it was. So, you know, that was going on, and you would think in that situation, maybe the monopole technology was on the way out. I don't think that's the case. And I do know these poles are not popping up everywhere. So it's a pretty valuable asset. I mean, when you see the numbers.
Especially out here.
Yeah, out here, you know, as you guys know, they kind of locate these so they fill gaps. It's very scientific. They fill voids in coverage. So we probably fill a gap in northern Macomb County. And that's not to say they couldn't approach the township or somebody north of us and you know, to put up a new tower, but generally it's been something that you don't see nearly as much as what you were seeing, you know, 10, 15 years ago. So
and it didn't cost us anything. We didn't build it.
Right.
American
Right.
Towers did.
Right.
So it's not like, oh my God, we put all that much money into that tower to build it. Now they're gonna, you know, drop the lease and we got nobody, nothing. It didn't cost us anything.
Right.
Did we grant, or did we do the pad, the access, and the generator, or was that still on them too, just the
They
same?
did everything.
They
They
did
did
everything.
everything. We I think we gave them an access agreement to go down the road, Chris, and obviously we leased them a little pad of land. And I think we've had some contact, like pulling permits to put in a generator and things like that. But I don't. I think Joe and Michelle would know. I don't think we've had a lot of communication. And like I
Not
said,
until 4
it's-
months ago.
Right. Right.
Was this lease agreement running out now?
No,
So-
it was a 50.
So 2025, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, 2025 is when the transition with Big Top Venture was supposed to occur. So we're, you know, what, almost three and a half years away from having to make a decision. What's motivating them to come to us so quickly now is probably they've acquired Big Top. They've looked at their inventory of cell towers and said,
That's
you know,
not
this
a good deal.
isn't a good deal.
Yeah.
Now they want to pay us less, but they haven't made an offer.
We don't know if they want to pay us less, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Right now, they put out a few offers. I think there were 3.
Yeah, there are 3 offers and they vary. 2 of them are very similar. It's
Yeah.
just, you know, but so I would say there's really two offers or 2 ways to approach it. But again,
But we want to make sure that we're not going to lose more.
Yeah, what are we
Then-
earning now, Joe, a year?
You're in 10,000 from Big Top and the original payments of the 8,000, which is
Yeah,
now.
about 18.
So you're getting about 18,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right. And we were just doing rough math. Now again, we're projecting a 50-year because that's what they told us. When you see these numbers, Dave, they look like big numbers, but if you amortize them over 50 years, they're
Right.
they're less than what we're getting now in terms
Right.
of lump sum. So again, there's a lot going on with these towers. I wish I knew, you know, more. And like I said, I was really surprised because I thought that the 5G and the small cell technology was gonna make these things somewhat obsolete, but that doesn't appear to be the case. You know, so.
So I think we just want your blessing to just check with some firms to see what they would charge to.
Yeah, sure.
You know, just
Yeah.
because we
will not
don't,
bind the village to
Yeah.
anything until you guys see what.
we'll bring it back. We
Yeah.
just wanted to let you know
Do that
that
research.
it's been going on.
Yeah, go ahead, do your
Okay.
research and bring it up.
All
Okay.
right, thank you.
So bottom line, we always want more money.
You can get it, yeah,
If we can get it,
sure.
we will try.
You get some good results on a Google search, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks, Council. All right, next is the sale of a Ferguson tractor and implements. I had a chance to look at it myself. DPW supervisor showed me what was wrong with the linkage of the throttle. It was bent over by him, and it works perfect now. So it wasn't a disaster, in my opinion, as well. So, I told him it needs to be cleaned up very much, which he was going to do. And before we sell any of our merchandise, it'll be cleaned up. So, anyone, Chris or Lyle, do you have any questions?
I went down to look at it and,
Same story to you too?
yeah, I mean, it's there. I can see where a zero turn would be needed for the park. And I can also see that that type of mower is not going to be efficient for them to be cutting that out there.
Well, it's more for open field.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
That's the
Uh,
Okay.
Right.
In essence,
so.
you going around trees in the park, would,
And then you get it done a lot faster with the zero turn.
Yeah.
So there's less labor.
No, I think it's a good opportunity to make some pretty good money off
I think
this,
so too.
this old tractor too.
well, if we're getting fed the right figures. As, you know, used equipment sometimes, I have lots of questions sometimes.
So,
And dealing with it, just like used cars and everything, each one varies sometimes. So, the thing is, it gets cleaned up, maybe it'll look very presentable somebody's eagle eye.
I just wanted to say, depending on what the price is, this may have to come back for final sale under the ordinance. to
Yeah.
dispose. Just so, I just don't, no decision permanently on.
So
selling
don't do the motion, we're
I don't
just
think you
talking
have
about it and
to,
going
yeah.
ahead, and then when the sale is
Well-
ready to be.
Depending on
voted
your-
down.
The best guess price was right about
Yeah, it was 9,500, I think it was,
9,500,
yeah.
10,000, right? So that's your tipping point.
Right,
Yeah.
I still think, in my opinion, it's the council's right to do the selling, it's not the employee.
well, he can advertise it.
Oh, you can advertise it, yeah. Whatever council, you know, states.
I was just gonna say that, is that now at this point, since I agree, you know, if it's not necessary for him to sell, how we wanna change, you know, have this resolution, and we.
No,
does
we
he
won't-
need-
we won't.
Does he need our permission then to go advertise?
I think I don't,
Authorization.
it's up
I
to,
think it's up to the commissioner.
it is up
Below-
until 10,000, after 10,000 it's council, right?
Yeah, right, but
Yeah.
he can't, I just wanna make clear, I don't think he can sell it, I think it's up to the commissioner.
Oh.
Yeah.
Below that threshold price.
That's you, Chris.
But I still like to see it come back to the council,
Yes.
and council can, you know, give the blessing as such.
But essentially, we're letting them go ahead now and put it out.
Advertise it.
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
In other words, it is for sale.
Yeah, just for the reasons why that Lyle mentioned.
And I think
Just
really,
not efficient.
also, if we're gonna also look at this stuff, like Lyle, Chris, I think we should look at the zero turns and make a recommendation ourselves.
Yep.
If he's with us, that's fine.
Sure.
But, like
And
I
obviously
said-
Dave has his own ideas as well. He's already
Yeah, well,
presented, he presented to
like I
us,
say,
so I agree.
The
That's fine.
three of us as
Sure.
such and him, and, because like I said, I've bought these myself, so, and others have too, so. But I think we should have the judgment.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so we're not gonna do a motion, but, you're giving Chris a blessing to,
Advertise the stuff.
I mean,
Yep, and then any offers he gets comes back to me to bring to the table.
Yep.
here.
yeah.
Well,
And he knows that there's only
sealed
twice a
bids
month,
too,
so.
gentlemen? Sealed bids?
Sealed bids.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see if it's.
Sealed bids, and we will reserve the right to reject any and all bids.
Right. Mine. Got it. Turn my page here a second. Okay, there's talk of a single waste hauler within the township itself. And Michelle has some information on it. I have information on it, but I'd like her to present what she has.
Okay, a couple years back, the former treasurer at the township had, just contacted me, just very informally, that they were thinking about looking at getting a single waste hauler for the township, including the village. And I said, well, you know, you can't just include us, even though we're part of the township, we're a separate entity, municipal entity. So I talked to Jeff at that point about it, and then it kind of, I don't think it dropped, but it kind of dropped. I just found out recently that they at the township level have been talking about it again. So I talked to Mary, and I brought it here for you guys. There's no motion, it's just to let you know what's going on, to see what you guys think. Jim Getzinger called me today, who's kind of spearheading this township board member. He offered to come tonight. I told him I don't think we're there yet, because, you know, we've discussed a single waste hauler here at the village for many years. Since it's been on the ballot twice, it's been voted down twice. You know, there's a lot of pros and cons, you know, to it. But my thought at this point is if the township is discussing including the village needs to be represented in those conversations. So, that being said, what I said to Jim was, I said, look, you know, I get, you know, we have 4 different waste haulers that come through this village, 4 different days, you know, that drive on the roads. Those heavy trucks are difficult on our roads. We all know that. We own our roads. The township does not own their roads. So, I mean, there's a lot of benefit to having one that comes through. But again, you know, the people had spoke in the past. So, you know, I'm not sure where they're going with this, if they're thinking about putting it on the ballot, or if they're just looking, and if they do, they need to get figures. But like Jeff and I had talked, and Jeff said, look, the really only fair way to do that is for them to get a bid for the village only, the township without the village, or everybody. Because I think a lot of the cost comes into fuel costs. In the village, we're very condensed, so they can go boom, 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 boom. Out in the township, there might be a mile between pickups. There may not. So as I talked to Jeff today, you know, he's like, you know, here's some questions. You know, is the board interested? Would the village contract, and would the village want to include recycling and yard waste, which that piqued my interest because we don't have yard waste right now. Wheeled containers for garbage recycling administer as a service fee on the tax bills, township, not village. But these are questions that would have to come to Jeff. I don't know that they can, I mean, we all pay a township tax. Right now we're paying for a dump, okay? I don't know how many of us use the dump. I personally don't, but and you're 2 of, and I'm sure that's a pretty good percentage of how it works out in the township. They would be closing down that dump, you know, and the transfer site. That's a better word for it. So they're just in this discussions. Nobody's made any decisions yet, but if they're going to include the village needs to be represented in these talks. So, you know, I guess what I told them I'd ask tonight is, you know, look, if nobody on this board is interested in even pursuing this at all, we'll just let them know that, and they can go on their merry way and do the township only. If you guys are interested in at least sitting down and having the talks, then I'll do it, or somebody else can do it, where we're involved in those talks. You know, the township can't make the decision for us, is basically, you know, the end. You know, we have to make that decision. So that's, you know, kind of what's going on. They've just been talking about it. I haven't been to any meetings. Like I said, I hadn't talked to anybody about it since Camille talked to me about it a year or two ago. I'm not positive on the time. But, you know, so I guess that's it. I mean, is anybody, you know, 5 of you or 4 of you are not interested in it, then, you know.
I think it'd be a good thing for.
I'm not asking
too.
for
I
a
think we
vote.
should
I'm
pursue
just asking.
But you know, we've been down that road a couple different times and been told what we could do with it, so.
Right.
But it would be great to just have one garbage hauler, one day, so like you say, we don't have these trucks.
All on our roads.
Opportunity to save taxpayers money.
And it would, and you know, if you had everybody, I believe that it would be cheaper. You know, I do. You know, I don't know that. You know, don't quote me on that. I believe it would end up being cheaper.
But I don't necessarily know or think that you'll only have one truck, one day.
Well, you probably, if you have the recycling,
Because when they're gonna
you know, there might
take
be.
everybody in.
That's right. You're gonna have 3-4
Yeah, I
trucks
don't
a day.
know.
Not a day. I don't know.
In one day, you're gonna have 3 to 4
Oh, in one
trucks.
day. I thought you said every day. Yeah, no.
And myself, I'm not for this. Number one, it takes away the competition between the.
Well, it takes away your freedom to choose.
Well-
And there's another.
Yeah, but I mean, it takes
Yeah.
the competitiveness away from the bidding. I mean, right now, I pay $62 a quarter for mine,
I pay 68.
okay?
Yeah.
So I think I'm probably the cheapest one here on council that has it.
I pay 55.
Well,
Hold on a minute. I want to
You're
look at
also
these.
paying for the township.
But you're
tax
also,
side,
you're also
whether
paying
you-
for the transfer.
You're paying-
yeah, well, that's, you know, and I also use the township transfer site on the, you know, large
Right.
things like that. But, I mean, we've gone through this, in fact, didn't we put this on a ballot?
It's been on the ballot twice.
Okay, and it's been turned down both times.
Yep.
I'm sick of having people tell me from other communities how they get their garbage collection all taken care of through their taxes.
Yeah.
You know?
It wouldn't be a tax, it's not on your tax, it's budgeted for Mary clarified
Yeah.
that today. It's not like it's in, you know, it's just budgeted
The
for.
people in town get very little service out of the township,
I agree,
the township taxes.
I agree.
This would be, not, even though it's bound to cost something, it'd be a little more, but I think we'd be stupid not to even look into
To investigate it. Well, and the other thing was, you know, one of their board members, you know, said that they thought, no, they wanted the companies to bill the people themselves rather than doing it through the taxes. But that's, you know.
That's what we have now.
Right, right. So again, I mean, they're in the very early stages of talking about it. I just think that the village needs some representation in those talks. So
I agree.
if
I
somebody
think so.
wants to volunteer to do
I
that,
would. I do.
will you go to the meetings? I don't know when they are.
Well,
So, all right, I will tell Jim Getzinger then to get a hold of you. Anybody else want to do it? I mean, I don't know, again, I don't even know how far they are into these. It just came to my attention that they had a meeting about it, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, you can't do that without, you know, us having some representation.
I'll be interested in it also.
Okay, so the two of you. Okay, all right, that's great. Then I'll let Jim know, if it's, we'll talk about it after, how he can get a hold of you.
Yeah.
shoot my
So,
phone number.
okay,
Yeah, stay with me.
okay, all right, we'll do that then.
Point afterwards, Jeff, you can share with us those ballot.
Right, well, there's, I mean, and again, until we know exactly what they're looking at doing,
Right.
you know, I
Make a
don't,
decision.
right, you can't make a decision, I wanna shoot down just the idea, you know?
Because I do know that Harrison Township, on their tax rolls, there is a deal on there that says for garbage pickup and waste.
Sterling Heights with that.
I don't know how the transfer site, I don't,
So, I mean,
Yes.
which a lot of communities have,
Municipalities do it.
a lot of communities have recently gone through it. I mean, obviously from an administrative standpoint, I don't know the township's set up quite as well as the village, but it is, if you take that on, then you know, are accepting that burden of,
Billing.
well, administering it, what if someone, the whole process.
What if somebody
Well, a lot of-
doesn't pay their taxes?
Well, not that so much, but like, what if you miss a stop or,
Right.
that call, so you gotta be.
You're the one that's gonna take it.
My advice to them is make sure you get your bid specs extremely solid, so you're clear on who's billing, who's gonna collect. Is there a call center to handle those calls? Because the last thing, I would say this I'm sure the township would agree, the last thing is you wanna make this as seamless as possible.
Right.
Yeah,
Let that, if they wanna bill, you can bill, Now, if they do it, you're not gonna get quite as good a price, right? Because they're gonna bake that in, but you just really have to get your bid specs
yeah.
as detailed as you can. We did it, I mean, we bid it a while back in the village, and I think we had some of the big players. I think we had Waste
We have
Management.
Waste Management was really the only one that could do it.
Yeah, so.
Like Howard's.
Well, and honest, and I don't know this, but I know I didn't vote for it because of Howard, because I was using Howard at the time, and I knew that, I'm all for keeping the small guy in business. I didn't want to, I knew we couldn't bid on it, So, and I don't know if that's not why it passed, but I know several people that felt the same way. It's like, I don't want to take that away from the small guy in Armada that's making a living,
In your discussions with Mr. Gotzinger, a couple of years ago, I went to every member of the township board, with the exception of the supervisor, and asking for them to do at our transfer station what they do in Hill Township, where my cabin is. And they're open 3 days a week. Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. You could take and they split it up, And so when you go, there's not gigantic lines. For me, I don't know how you guys do it, but it would be pretty hard to just go twice.
sometimes 3 weeks in between.
Twice.
Yeah, just like our meetings,
A month,
yeah.
and for families with
With
babies
kids.
and things, it's really hard.
It is.
So I asked them to do something like that. What they do is in the summer, they have pick up 3 times, or they're open 3 times a week. And I think in the fall and winter, it's 2 times a week. But it seems to work very good up there. You pay an extra 20 or 30 bucks on your taxes for that. But it allows the people to take it there and gives them a weekly,
Flexibility.
Yeah.
and that, I asked that, some of them board members are not there now, but it never went anywhere. But
Well, and I'm not sure at this point, I mean, and I don't want to be misquoted for the paper or in publicly, because I don't know how if on our tax bills, on our township taxes, if it says transfer site $2, you know what I mean? I have no idea if that's broken out in your tax, it's not. But I do know it's in their budget, so your taxes are still paying for it, I mean, it's just not a line item on your taxes, so.
And when the clerk was in here today, I did hear her say, if it's put on the taxes. and
What if they don't pay taxes?
If they default on their taxes, and the thing is, the county may not collect that particular fee if it's not paid.
Right.
So, and it's turned over by the village or the township and the tax bills at the end of the fiscal year when they collect the taxes.
Right. So
I don't
these
know
are,
are- they
that
may
that-
not
I don't
return.
know that that's true.
well, that was, Mary didn't know.
Mary
She was something she was
She
going.
thought that was
The
it.
county won't take some special assessments, noxious
Well,
weeds
if it
and
is a
that kind of
special,
stuff. And
special
it's not
fee,
broke out as a special
If
assessment.
it's not broken out
It's
as
just
a
out of the
special
general
assessment,
fund.
right?
that could be a question though.
So,
Yeah. Well, and it's,
Yeah.
again, I think they're still just in the baby stages of this, I believe. But I just didn't want them to keep including us in on their talks if we weren't even interested in it, Because, like Jeff and I talked about, we may have to have a separate contract.
Well, so the way you're able to keep it a single waste hauler is you and we considered this when we went out to bid, is really you have an ordinance that says there shall be one waste hauler in
We
for
probably
the
still have that
village,
ordinance,
and
yeah.
obviously then you go through the bid process, select that person, and that's how you establish kind of the exclusivity. That obviously didn't go anywhere, and it sounds like we have 3 or 4 operators. But I just don't know if I don't know if the township's decision would allow us to not, adopt some type of ordinance to create that single waste hauler
Yeah.
concept. Because that obviously, as Michelle said, there are roads, they're not the township's roads, so we probably need to at least look at that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the people that are gonna bid probably have other villages and townships arrangements, so maybe they can come up with some options or models that have worked.
Yeah.
Also, I had one resident of the village call me Thursday, and he stated that he has a cottage short distance from here, about probably 70 miles roughly. He says the city or village up there charges $34.50. Well, he doesn't pay nothing. He gives it to his neighbor. So they share the $34.50. Well, I don't think that's right, somebody doing that either. So if they have something, it should be spelled out by the individuals.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody would have the option of opting out. Just like we don't have the option of opting out of
You'd
the
have to put that
transfer
in, you'd
site.
have to put that in.
Right, I mean, the
If we have
transfer
a
site, we
similar
pay for it
situation.
whether you use it or not. Again, though, spread out over however many, 5,000 residents we have or whatever, I don't know how many homes, it's probably very minimal. But I know they pay $65,000 a year for that transfer site. So, I mean, it kind of goes both ways. I don't use the transfer site, I pay for it. You guys use the transfer site, you lose that, then you pay, I mean, it's the same, I think it's something that, should be voted on.
Services for the cost.
Right,
what you gotta
right.
do it.
And how locked in are to those costs. If it goes down considerably, is that only gonna be for the first couple of years, Then you gotta rebid it, but again, I just wanted the village to have some representation, so that's,
Michelle, I'd like to be on the committee as well.
pardon me?
I'd like to be on the committee as well.
Okay. Perfect.
Right at this time, we have 2 members, so no further talk is needed. Your record retention policies are next.
Yeah.
Michelle?
Okay, this is just to update you guys. I'm gonna be very brief. I don't have a motion or anything because Jeff just found me another one to look at. We talked about this years ago. We did not have at that point a problem with our storage for records. We've had some structural issues in the garage where I keep my records, creating an issue for storage a little bit. I mean, we found a place for them. Dave cleaned out an old well house, Steve, is it?
Yeah, well, house number 4.
Yeah, made a beautiful spot for me to keep my records, which is great. But what, I think that I'm ready to, really start looking into some type of record retention policy. The only thing that I talked to Jeff about was the state retention policy is that thick, and it includes everything under the sun, even things that don't apply to us. But he found me one at the MML that I want to look at. He emailed it to me, so I want to sit down and look at that. My biggest thing is I don't mind, going through the bills or boxes that are bills from 1982 and chucking those if there's nothing in there we need. But I really want it left up to the clerk's discretion, not mine, the clerk's, as the record keeper, because that is our job in this position, to make the ultimate decision on whether it goes or not. Because sometimes there are files, even if it's a project we did 20 years ago, that we might, the retention policy might say you can get rid of that after 7. There's some things that I would like to be able to say, no, we're gonna hold on to that. And I think going through this, it's gonna be a huge undertaking, but, I wanna, because I know there's Armada Times up there. I know there's voice newspapers up there. I know there's the Record. for years that, are just boxes of newspapers, which I'll donate to the library. I mean, this is kind of my thinking, but I think the clerk needs the ultimate, decision on whether it gets destroyed or not.
Okay.
I'll look at what Jeff has. I might be as ready to bring it back, maybe not the next meeting, but the next meeting Jeff's at, just so we can adapt it and then move forward.
Okay.
I'm just trying to, it wasn't a problem until it was a problem, and now it's it's not a terrible problem, but this would also, get the files in a better. There were several clerks before me, so it's like this will get these files into an order where I can look at it and say, okay, this box number 2 contains this. It's a huge undertaking, but I think that, and it'll probably take me a while to get done, but it'll get everything organized, and I think it'll help anybody that comes in after me to be able to have a better handle on the records. So.
Okay.
All right, next is the replacement of the G2 filter media at the water treatment plant. Russ, do you have
A motion.
Well, I'll provide just a little bit of that. No, I think council knows, we've been talking about this for 2 years. I think we've all known it's coming. There's information in your packet. I've put the last quote we received from McIntyre Soft Water. McIntyre's is the company, as I understand it, that we dealt with when the water treatment plant was open. They helped us put the initial media in. The media has lasted far longer, I think, than generally expected, but its days are numbered, and now we're starting to see, I think maybe with a little bit more accurate reporting from F&V operations, as those guys are professional water managers, as they do that testing, that the arsenic concentration levels in the filtration vessels, which we've got 4, are starting to tick up. We cannot go over 10 parts per billion. One of the vessels is recently tested at 9. Now the levels fluctuate, right? And we back flush on a fairly regular basis to clear the filters as much as we can, but the saturation levels are getting high. The issue with flushing, we could do it more, but it just simply takes the problem that I have at water treatment plant, gives it to Steve at the wastewater treatment plant. He has to get rid of that in the biosolids and the sludge that gets
land applied.
Gets land
That we
applied.
still want to be able to land apply and not be treated as hazardous waste.
Right. So we have also, just as an aside, the Arsenic Detention project, which is essentially ready to go, subject to money, and we've held back on that. That would also help his problem. So new filtration media and the detention project moving forward would immensely help his immediate problem. We've asked for money in the C2R2 grant. I called a week or so ago and talked to Eagle directly about it. I expect a decision on that for the municipalities that have applied for that grant at any time, but they said they're still doing some arm wrestling. So what I'm looking forward here is the authority to proceed. I'm going to be meeting with McIntyre next Wednesday with Wally and Cabbage, who's the operator at the water treatment plant. We're going to discuss, again, the schedule that we talked about before. We're going to relook at the timing for production of the media. We're going to go back over the cost. The cost has gone up a little bit. McIntyre's is saying they will hold the cost. On the assumption we're going to do something fairly soon.
I was gonna ask, it says $12,000 increase over previous quote.
Which one? Oh, you're looking at, in your packet, there's the phase 1, which is 2 out of the 4 vessels, and phase 2 is the other 2 vessels. Again, we've got 4, and the cost of doing both is $800 and something thousand. It's a big pill to swallow.
So I
Yeah, what time?
one to
period
four,
do
then
you
two to
want this
three.
in?
Well, if any of those vessels gets beyond 10, Eagle will shut them down. And you've got 2 in series, and so that leaves 2 to go. And obviously, they're gonna shut down the worst of the 4, the worst 2 of the 4 in
Hopefully it's
series.
better.
And then the other one is picking up, it's gonna take all of the additional capacity out of the system. So I would not expect that to survive long either. Arsenic levels will climb in that as well, right?
So
So,
you're gonna do 1 and 4, I'm imagining, based on the numbers.
well, it's.
1's
it's-
7, 1's 9, so.
Yeah, 1, 7,
The other ones are 2 and 3, so.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
if we kick something off, what about this, we're out for a grant, they say, well, you don't need a grant, you're already buying it.
I don't think it's gonna come down that way. I have to discuss with Eagle what happens if we do. We said in the grant that this was urgent and our time was limited. So I do need to give them a call and say, what happens if we go forward with it? Because we really can't wait much longer. And then they say, well, you've spent your money, you don't need it. So I do have to find out about that.
Well, I don't wanna kick this off without.
Well, I
Why
want
don't
the
you just
authority
put
to
it-
move forward
put it
based
at the
on
end?
my
Right, but you're
Pending.
doing due diligence.
So, I
Pending.
mean, you gotta get, you gotta get your 65% down.
65% down, gets the ball
And I'm
rolling.
assuming, is that at the onset, or is that, we're doing that 30? Again, my thing
Yeah.
is if it's the time, it's if they can take 30 days or so.
Yeah, that's
to do it, then
65%, it's just the phase 1.
Yeah.
65% is phase 1's initial payment, then you pay the balance of that, which is 124,000 upon
On
completion.
installation.
Right now, what McIntyre's has said is the 6-month lead time for production is down to about 4 weeks. I gotta confirm all this stuff, right? So really with the motion tonight, I'm looking for the authority to do it if all the plans align. If they don't, I may be able to wait to the next meeting. I may be able to wait to the meeting beyond that. The point is, I don't want to keep kicking the can because we're there, right? And I don't want to wake up and all of a sudden both vessels are now flirting with 10 parts per billion and Eagle will shut them down. Eagle gets a monthly report from us. And so they're aware of
They'd be
what the
watching.
levels are.
So if we can get a reimbursement,
Yes.
if we do pay,
Yeah.
I mean, that's your question.
Yeah, that's
He
why,
don't
that's
know
what
the
Dave's
answer.
asking.
He doesn't know
So,
it. That's what he's got.
yeah, I've got to check into that. And so I know exactly who to call about this but I have to do it, right?
Why
So-
don't we put pending reimbursement, I mean, at the end, like, something like.
Well, I don't-
Pending,
So council then is going to have to decide if they want to gamble and wait
oh,
and see what happens.
I don't think.
Right? Because I don't know when Eagle's gonna do this. I would have thought it would have been done already. They would have announced grant awardees, but they haven't. So I would, giving me the authority to do it doesn't mean I'm gonna do it tomorrow. I'm not gonna write a check tomorrow, but
Well, you already, I would say that was my point, there's no
Yeah.
check being written tomorrow
Right.
anyways.
Right,
You're just saying,
right.
well, you just have to execute an agreement, plus then determine
Yeah.
all
And
the
you
other.
might-
I wanna be able to tell McIntyre, I have the authority to go ahead at this point.
They can
I wanna
send
be
us
able
the
to call
invoice
up
then.
Eagle and
But I
say,
wanna
hey,
see,
you
yeah.
guys gotta get off your
Right.
duff here because we're, and if we do it, is it reimbursable? I suspect it is, but I don't
Right.
know for 100.
And we already have the money, right?
We've got the money, what it does is
We
we've
don't
always
have
said,
for phase, we don't have the money for phase 1 and 2.
we don't have the money for phase 2, but in the last 2 years, that's what we've always discussed is, boy, we don't have the money, but we gotta do something with at least 2 of the vessels. That should take some of the pressure off the other 2, but that level there is also clear.
maybe you could use the grant for the next phase and get it all done.
Well, my intent would be,
If you had it, well,
Yeah.
knock on
Yeah,
composite wood here, whatever it is, it's, we would get the entire grant and we would use it for all of that.
Yeah.
Plus in that grant is the money for the arsenic detention
Detention.
facility
Yeah.
as well. So, we were thinking big and through long and we're trying to get it all. Again, we're 1 of 32, so, but there's some discussions going on in Eagle about how they grade people and so on.
Okay.
It's ostensibly C2R2 is PFAS, but they said, and any of the other well-understood water contaminants out there, which arsenic is one, and a big one. So for all I know, they're arguing about, well, we should give it all the PFAS, no, we should spread the peanut butter. I don't know. They're not telling
Well,
us.
so in other words, can we wait for this motion for 2
We
weeks?
can wait for 2 weeks, I don't know.
If we get some of these answers like you just suggested there too.
I suspect that we could probably wait for 2 weeks. I don't know that I want to wait much beyond that, because again, we're gambling here. We're
Well, if you don't
gambling.
wanna wait at all, then make your motion.
Yeah. Make your
That's
motion.
why I
Well,
say-
again, and I'll go ahead and make the motion. It's given me the authority to move forward. I need the next 2 weeks to to meet with McIntyre's, to call the state, to get I'm waiting for another reading out of the plant. It's just that we have a meeting now tonight, and,
Right.
right? And unless I want to call an emergency session, or have you call an emergency session. So let me go ahead and do it. You're gonna give me this.
Which
meeting
motion did you wanna do?
One that's
It's
on
just a,
The
it's
one
a
on
one.
here or
Yeah, the one that, I sent this to Michelle and asked, because again, it's your sole sourcing.
Did you look at that motion?
Yeah,
Yeah, this is
this
Jeff's.
one, it's on
right?
the agenda statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So we're sole sourcing, and I didn't have, Jeff always comes up with the right words based upon our financial ordinance. So,
I just want to say, just not sole source, just so I understand, we can't get this media, there is very few, I think,
Can't buy it off a shelf.
a Canadian
Yeah.
company, one supplier, so that's.
what's a Canadian company? McIntyre's is the distributor in the state, to the best of my knowledge. I can hunt down others, but we don't have time to
Right.
do a lot of hunting.
Right.
But I can see 2 weeks myself personally. I wouldn't mind waiting 2 weeks and have that answer if there's gonna be a reimbursement of this grant. In other words, if we do pay. I would like to know that first somehow.
But if you don't get the grant, are you not going to do the?
It still needs to be
Yeah.
done.
It
has to be done.
You still
Yeah.
have to be done.
It
Yeah,
has to be done.
Yeah,
you still have to do it.
Well,
The only issue with the grant,
You're doing the
Yeah,
next one.
right.
Marvin,
You know that.
is if we spend the money now, will Eagle then not reimburse us for it?
right.
So
But if you don't get the grant, you're not getting any money anyways.
if we don't get the grant, we get no money. Right.
We're gonna pretend we're New
The bottom line is we have to move forward at some point with somebody's money and do this.
Well, I understand it.
Yeah.
For 2 weeks,
Make a motion, Ross.
spending
Okay.
$383,000.
We're getting.
Well, we
That's
spend
taxpayer money.
spend it tonight, or we
Sorry.
spend it in 2 weeks.
Right.
So make your.
I'm not gonna, you're gonna give me the authority, I'm not gonna spend it until I get those answers. And I will call you personally and let you know what those
No, you're
answers
doing it.
Yeah.
Let
Let
me
me
know.
know.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
That he calls you personally before he goes out.
Right. It's just that, right.
There you go.
I was against this in the beginning because of the prices that they screwed us on. Excuse me.
It's very hot, but I don't
It doesn't
have,
matter. The bottom line is we have to have water.
right. I don't wanna be in a position where we're shutting down
If they shut
two of
down
our,
two of
Not
our
everybody
vessels.
lives on the creek. Yeah.
so,
I know times have changed and everything else, but really,
right.
I think for 2 weeks, I can wait, so.
Well, again, McIntyre's has said, the last quote we got was in February. The price has gone up since then. McIntyre's has said, if we're moving forward fairly soon, they will hold that quote.
Right.
They don't
It'll
have
just go
to.
up.
The period of the quote's already expired, the
Right.
60 days or whatever.
It'll
They
just
said they would
continue
hold
to go
I
up.
think making this motion would show them that we're
I-
being
Yes.
I need some, I'll talk to the camera, McIntyre's, I want some leverage against you guys, but it's a little bit of leverage, right?
Right.
To say, hey, we can do it. In the meantime, I will call Vansing, I will see what they can tell me.
Very good.
All right. So I'd like to make a motion to waive the competitive purchasing requirements pursuant to Title I, Chapter 7, Section 7-2C37, and purchase replacement G2 media for 2 vessels at the water treatment facility from McIntyre's Soft Water Services pursuant to quote number 2021-0128-20, which incidentally is in your packet, at the cost of $383,760.
Support.
Well, I have a shout.
By Shaw.
Okay.
You
Thank
want
you
to
for
add
calling
on the
that
tail
for
end of that pending confirmation of possible reimbursement from people?
No, because if you
Because
don't
I
get
have to do
reimbursed, you
it.
still
I have
gotta
to
do
do
it.
it anyway.
Right.
Exactly.
Just as a comment though, again, what we're paying for now is
Okay.
it's the deposit of $265, that's what we would pay. The total cost is the $383,000. The remainder is upon full completion of the media replacement, disposal by McIntyre's, operation of the plant. So that'll be a few months down the road, but this gets the ones who say go and provide a check, it gets the media in production, which is what we want to do.
Okay.
All right, we can do a roll call. Any further discussion first? If not, roll call please.
Belkey,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Sledz,
Yes.
Conan,
Yes.
Ballard,
Yes.
Wallach.
No.
I will call you up, Barb, and let you know what you.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah. Big pill as well.
Up and coming agenda items, council have any?
You'll be approving the millage on the next meeting.
I hear you.
You will be approving the millage.
Yeah.
The park concerts in the park start Wednesday. Bill Burnham's supposed to be one of our best entertainers that we've had. He's been here before. He plays on WDET, also at the Ann Arbor Music Fest. So we're excited to have him.
I've had him at my place. He was awesome.
Yeah,
Great.
that's what
Great.
Sam said.
Yeah.
We're trying to make improvements at the park. We're gonna cut the tree over the pump house, take it out, I think for $900 it's gonna cost us. But it's gotta come out, it's laying on the building, it's literally laying.
Pardon, to do for us?
Yeah, pardon, yeah. Yeah. Put some sand in the sand, they put sand in their sandbox, or the sandboxes, but I got some good sand and put it on top of it, so it's, kids can play in it, and they're not throwing rocks at each other.
Well, that's no fun.
That's good.
Okay, anything
It's
else?
exciting.
And we're gonna get the
The
Buckaroo.
The Buckabout's coming up, I got the seats coming for that.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Don't we have the sale of the
Tractor.
tractor coming back?
Yes.
Yes, that will be, yes.
Yeah, and Michelle, I'll definitely give an update on media replacement.
Yeah.
And if we can look to, gentlemen,
Yep, I sent Dave while we were here in that topic, I sent him a note on both fronts.
about the new one too, we can take a look, possibly while we're at one of the implement dealers or so too.
Okay.
Or go by, in other words. We'll take a look right away. So, citizen comments is open again. Floor is open up for 3 minutes. State the name for the record as such if you want. All right. Council comments?
I've got a quick one. Just reiterate what we've talked about before. Please help keep the flushable wipes out of our sewer system. They need to be thrown in the trash. And I just saw a recent advertisement for a compostable wipe.
It is not.
It is not, because I'll tell you what, it probably takes less than half a day for any one point in the village where you flush the toilet and it makes it down to the plant. It's not gonna decompose that quickly. So we have some new equipment down there. I'd like to keep it nice. We don't have these rags and everything getting tied up and things. Again, it costs everybody money when we've gotta go through and clean out these sewers because of that. So if you could please throw them out, it'd be appreciated.
Don't get back there, let it decompose.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Any other councilman? Community events, anyone?
Just concerts in the park.
Concert in the park. Didn't we have one last week?
No.
Oh,
It's
okay.
the first one.
This is the
First
first
one,
one.
very good.
That's the photo op, Michelle.
You and I were sitting there by ourselves.
I was
You and Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
See how
So-
heavy duty it is.
On the Buckabout.
We don't have a closed session tonight, and I'm gonna entertain a motion for adjournment.
The time-
8:21.
Time is 8:21, Mr. President, I move to adjourn.
Support.
Mr. Ballard by Mr. Chris, support. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Meeting